So how do intelligent beings on the smaller scales influence our lives? Since smaller scale intelligent beings are concerned about energy efficiency, then they are interested in our quicker development, so that we can faster make ourselves and them more energy efficient. And that's why they would be very interested in having a certain level of control over our behavior and decision making, so that we make the most beneficial ones. But how do we make decisions?
I have 1 hour of free time today, and I'm trying to decide what to do. I know I have to get to the grocery store. On the other hand, I need to get to a coffee shop to work on a grant deadline. And I'd like to be able to play with my son at the park today. So how do I decide? Well, ideally, I'd like to be able to know what each of these possible futures would be like, but I can't time travel. Or can I?
It may sound like the plot of a movie, but wouldn't it be great if we could make decisions by looking back from the future? Well, that's exactly what our brains are trying to do all the time. Running simulations of the future and giving each of them a different value.
So in order to influence our decision making, they would need to influence our future simulations. But what influences our future simulations?
Traditionally, memory research has really focused on the past. And in the last few years, researchers such as myself have been looking at the ability to imagine the future and how memory might actually play a role in that.
Donna and her team set up an experiment to determine just how the hippocampus and our memories help us perceive our future selves.
So what we do is we have subjects come into the lab and we have them retrieve around 100 memories.
I remember going to visit my cousin in Germany.
We walked along the beach and at the end there was a cave.
And I gave my grandmother a seashell for Christmas.
And for each memory, they identify a person, a place, and an object that might be important.
The Autobahn.
My mother.
2 penguins.
Boston.
My backpack.
Auckland waterfront.
My girlfriend Sarah.
The hospital.
My brother Wayne.
Eastern Beach.
Amsterdam Airport.
There's a cave.
A week later, Donna brings her subjects back, places them in an fMRI machine, and shows them details from their recalled memories. But she deliberately jumbles the details. An object from one memory has been grouped with a place from another memory and a person from yet another. Donna then asks them to make a story out of these mixed up memories, to imagine something that has not happened yet, but potentially could.
We ask them for each person, place, object that they're seeing now to imagine a future event that might happen to them within the next 5 years or so.
While the participants are imagining their futures, Donna measures their brain responses. To her surprise, the part of the brain that is vital to storing memories of the past, the hippocampus, is blazing with activity.
The hippocampus is playing a really important role not only in remembering, but also allowing us to build these future simulations. Memory is important not only for the past, but also for the future.
But memories have different strength, and not all of them have influence over our future simulations.
A lot of what we know about the amygdala and its function comes from the animal world. So our reaction to anything that's emotional, if we suddenly hear a noise which is frightening, or processing emotional expressions on one's face, the amygdala is crucial for all of these functions.
And it probably helps us increase memory, because in a fearful or emotional situation, the amygdala activation is heightened, and it also increases activation in related structures like the hippocampus.
The amygdala is like a bouncer at a nightclub. It decides which memories get to play a part in shaping our life histories. The ones that carry emotional weight are allowed in. The ones that don't are not.
So the best way to influence our decision making is to precisely fine-tune the experiences that create our emotionally powerful memories. And for intelligent beings that live on the quantum scales, it means to determine the quantum states of the quantum systems that make up those experiences. But usually certain quantum states occur randomly in quantum systems, with a specific probability. So if someone started determining those states to achieve a certain macroscopic effect, then we would be getting deviation from randomness. And according to the following experiment, that's exactly what is going on.
In the mid-1980s, Roger began investigating a strange phenomenon that had been reported by several other researchers. They had noticed that the readouts of electronic devices called random number generators could be affected by people sitting next to them, if those people focused their thoughts on them.
In the course of a long series of experiments over years, we found that people could change the behavior of these random number generators very slightly, but significantly.
Random number generators are electronic coin tossers. Instead of heads or tails, they throw ones or zeros. Their results are supposed to be totally random. Roger reasoned that if one person sitting close by could alter their readouts, then perhaps the massed thoughts of entire cities could do the same. Could random number generators placed around the world be used to track the minds of millions of individuals?
What we have done is set up a scientific experiment with a fairly simple hypothesis. The idea is when large numbers of people share a consciousness state, especially emotional, then our network will show deviations from randomness.
By the late 1990s, Roger had persuaded several colleagues across the globe to collect random number data in their labs. The Global Consciousness Project was born.
This is a map that shows where the Global Consciousness Project has installations all around the world. That's Hawaii there, Australia, New Zealand, lots of them in Europe. There's a random event generator or random number generator attached to a computer at each of those places.
This global network runs 24/7, collecting data and then sending it back to a server at Roger's lab in Princeton.
We take the real-time data, and every second the color block will appear. Mostly it's small, but when there's a big deviation in the data, like that, oh my God, another one. This is unusual to see so many large deviations in such a short time.
Every time there is a major global event, Roger checks to see if his network deviates from normal. And many times it does.
So the Global Consciousness Project may be the evidence that we are being manipulated or guided by a more powerful intelligence than ours. With that in mind, now we can also speculate about the results of the next experiment.
Put your palm up.
Dean has developed a scientific method to test whether people can really anticipate events in the future, an ability he calls presentiment. Today, he's working with a volunteer, Janet.
Okay, have fun.
Thanks.
He has asked her to look at a series of images on a computer monitor while he records her body's physiological responses. What she looks at are a randomized series of photos, some planned, some emotionally charged. Dean charts Janet's skin conductance, a measure of her stress level, against the types of images she was seeing. What Dean and any other psychological research should expect to find is a sharp change in the response right after an emotionally jarring image. But that's not what he finds.
This line shows where the actual picture shows up. So if this picture shows up here, you would think that there shouldn't be any difference in the overall average of the emotional pictures and overall average of the calm pictures. But when she sees an emotional picture, there's a bump up. So we go backwards in time, 5 seconds before, and we can see that from that moment, that if it's going to be an emotional picture, she's already becoming emotional as compared to the calm. This difference is what I call a presentiment response.
According to Dean's research, Janet's body is responding to the pictures 5 seconds before she sees them. It's the same effect he's found in hundreds of trials over the past 30 years. All of his subjects show this presentiment response.
So the explanation of this effect may be as follows. The appearance of an emotional picture is an emotionally powerful event, which means it is fine-tuned through quantum physics. The fine-tuning process starts sometime prior to the event itself, so the test subject becoming emotional might be a reflex of the organism to deviations in the behavior of quantum systems, because recent studies show that organisms can sense quantum phenomena.
The European robin uses quantum mechanics to find its way to Spain.
So the evidence is very strong that fruit flies, at any rate, can distinguish between molecules not by their chemical composition, but by their vibrational spectrum. And again, the only mechanism that people have been able to think of for how this could work is an intrinsically quantum mechanical one with phonon-assisted tunneling.